The boy Mark Breland is back with some more bull. We're going to talk about it. Mark Breland says he didn't have Deontay Wilder's number, and Wilder became untrainable, uncoachable, unapproachable. I said untrainable, uncoachable, unapproachable. We're going to talk about all that. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Smash the goddamn like button. I'm not playing. This year is up. If it's up, then it's up. Mark Breland, he just did a press release. It's almost like he waited for Deontay Wilder to say something so he could respond. I don't know, in the form of a press release, you don't know who wrote it or whatever. But this is coming out on behalf of Mark Breland. I'm going to start with some quotes, and then I'll give my opinion. This is what Mark Breland had to say in the response to Wilder's response to his response. I know it gets kind of tricky, but stay tuned and just follow along. Mark Breland's press release says, "My time in the coaching position with the Bronze Bomber changed drastically in the 12 years I started with him. Co-trainer JD's was seen as the head trainer, but I was the only one on the team. With a boxing resume, and I was the only trainer. This was okay with me because of my humility." He goes on to say, after Deontay became a name in boxing, new members joined the team, and it got to the point where I didn't even have my fighter's phone number. I haven't spoke to Deontay Wilder alone in years. The things that I had told Deontay Wilder had to be ran past JD's. Deontay had become untrainable because he was at a point of, quote, he knows more about boxing than all of us. So teaching a correct jab was not a priority to learn once he continued on his knockout streak. So a coach can only teach somebody if they are willing to learn. We would wait for the champ hours before he arrived at the gym, and Jay would inform us of his mood. If he had a bad day, we had to be quiet to not be on the receiving end of his wrath, according to Jay, in an effort to not be fired. He also says, I never thought anything this insane could take place. I should not have addressed who had the water because that accusation is so asinine it doesn't deserve a reply. Anyone who knows a tiny bit about boxing knows we're tested before and after the fight, so that's the end of that ludicrous allegation. Lastly, at the fight, just as many others, we had no cut men because Deontay won't need it. So I'm not a doctor, but I know blood coming out of your ears and a dazed eyes could be a brain issue, and power comes from your legs, and his legs were gone, so I made a decision to stop the fight, and I do it all again, end quote. Well, actually, sir, you won't do it all again. Good, because you fired. How you gonna do it again if you're not even on the team? Bro, come on, man. Let's unpack this and talk about this. Listen, I unpacked this for practice. So there's some holes in what Mark Breland has been saying. Okay, so an easy one is this. I should have not addressed who had the water because that accusation is so asinine. But you did address who had the water, and you said you never had the water, and I've already put it out on video, screen caps, where you actually had the water. You said, go look at tapes, and there's never a point where you had water. So now you're trying to clean that up. That's an easy strike for your boy Ego Stradamus, Ego Veli, M.O.B. Smash the like button. The other thing, you get no respect from me as a man for Mark Breland to now come out and make it sound like he sounds like somebody who is a victim of Stockholm syndrome or like R. Kelly imprisonment. You know, you heard the stories about R. Kelly and what the household was like. He says we had to wait for the champ for hours before he arrived at the gym, and we had to be quiet like it's a library and stuff like that. Listen, playing devil's advocate, let's say that's true. You're accepting this. So you're saying you had to be quiet, a grown man, and you're saying you're the only one that brings actual boxing experience and expertise. You're saying Wilder became untrainable. He wasn't willing to learn. He didn't want to have a jab, and you didn't even have his phone number. This is all what Breland's saying. I'm playing devil's advocate for the people. Listen, I'm playing devil's advocate. So Wilder is this, menace to society or whatever, and he's making your job 10 times harder. I can't respect that because as a man, it's a free country. You could go and move as you please. And I know if I'm collaborating with anybody and the partnership is not working, the relationship, the professional advice is not being listened to, they're not heeding my warning, I'm not seeing any improvement in the fighter is coming late, then I'm out. So why would Mark Breland accept paycheck after paycheck, endure these circumstances, only to the week MTK Panorama documentary comes out, do a first interview, and then when Wilder obviously responds like, yo, like, damn, I never thought he would sell out like this and go out like this. Now you're responding and trying to make it like you were under these strenuous sweatshop type of conditions. Why did you accept that as a man? You're like, part of being a man is knowing your value. Again, as I just stated, I am a creative. I've spent my whole life fostering my creative side and originality, uniqueness, and my imagination, and allowing it to run wild. So as a true creative and an artist, I've done music, acting, doing the YouTube stuff. As a true creative, at any point in my life, as my adult life, any place in time, I know the value of what I bring to the table. Educated, my parents raised me well, my upbringing, my ability to connect with people, to speak eloquently, street smarts, like whatever. I know the value that I bring to the table. So me personally, I can't respect it because at the end of the day, this is a democracy. If you're trying to train somebody and you don't have their phone number and they're moody or whatever you're crying about now, why would you stay in that situation? You just said, I'm the only guy that had boxing, a boxing career or pedigree or whatever. So using that boxing pedigree, then why don't you just say, yo, this ain't working for me? Like, why does it take for Wilder to release you or to fire you if you are unhappy? The thing in life is a lot of people deal with complacency and they stay to a situation. And there's more that I want to break down in this, so please bear with me. But I can't, as a true alpha, I can't respect the fact that you could be unhappy as you're depicting right now, and you just stayed in the situation and allowed him. Like, so let's say Wilder is getting at you sideways, he's yelling at you, he's showing up late, he's unwilling to learn, then I would pack my bags and be like, yo, this is not what I signed up for. We've been working together 12 years, and now that you're knocking everybody out, this is not my bag. This is not my expertise. Because I do know some great trainers in this game, and I don't think they would accept this. I'm not going to say a bunch of names, but like Virgil Hunter, if you go to his gym, this is unacceptable. Like, if you're in Virgil Hunter's gym, first of all, he doesn't have 1,000 media people unless it's like a media day or whatever. It's a very quaint gym. you're there to work. Is very, I'm not going to say militant, but in the vein of the military, it's very structured, very disciplined. If you're there and you're playing around and that's not the tone and stuff like that, it's not going to be acceptable, right? I also, what comes to mind, another great trainer is Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach, he had situations with certain fighters, like let's say Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He's been training all this time. He's a former fighter just like Breland. And Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he was doing these makeshift trainings in his living room when he's supposed to be training for the biggest fight of his career at the time, Sergio Martinez. And, they split up, and then when they got back together, Freddie Roach had to establish some ground rules like, yo, if you working with me, we got to clean this up. Same thing with Nacho Beristain. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. teamed up with Nacho Beristain with known discipline issues, right? Like bad discipline, waking up when he wants and, not training hard, not losing the weight. And Nacho Beristain is a Hall of Fame, no-nonsense trainer out of Mexico. He's not going to allow that stuff. So he had to establish very early on that you're here to work and you got to listen to me. And again, the list goes on and on. If you're a great trainer, you don't just, only dead bodies go with the current, go with the flow. You know what I'm saying? If your heart is beating and blood is pumping through your body and you know what you bring to the table, at the end of the day, you're not going to be like beholden to anybody's rules and just allow somebody to do that when you're like, yo, I'm the great trainer. I could be spending time with fighters that want to learn, but Breland didn't do this. Breland stayed in the situation only to now, when things are sour or bad, to complain about what you endured. I can't, that sounds like almost scorn female behavior. Like, you ever heard of a female, she's with a guy, he cheats on her, and she's so disgusted that their relationship ended like that. She's doing nothing but trying to ridicule the guy, like, oh, he was lousy in bed, or, he wasn't that good anyway, he could never keep a job. But why'd you stay with him up until the point in which he released you or gave you a reason where you couldn't be with him because he cheated on you? If he was a deadbeat, you don't have a job, you have all this angst and negativity towards him now, why were you living with him? Why did you stay in that situation? And that's the same thing that I'm asking Mark Breland. He says Wilder is untrainable, and he got to a point where he was a know-it-all and showing up late and cussing everybody out. Okay, cool. As a grown man and knowing your value and what you bring to the table, why did you endure that? Why did you stay there just to complain about it now when things didn't work out? AKA, why did it take for Wilder to feel these suspicions and release you for you to come out and now put this out there? Like, what fighter and trainer duo doesn't have the other person's phone number? It's just, this stuff is mind-blowing to me. Like, what trainer would be okay? That's like Virgil Hunter not having Andre Ward's number, so he can't shoot him a text or nothing. Like, so if Wilder's treating you like a side piece, why would you just be okay with that? That doesn't make sense to me. He's treating you like a side chick. Don't call me before 8 p.m. That's weird. So even if what he's saying is true, it's weird that as a grown man, you would allow that and you were content collecting checks. Now, last thing that I want to talk about is this. Mark Breland, whoever's putting a battery in his back or prompting him to do this, he's making himself look worse. Here's why. Because you're telling us the dynamics of your relationship has vastly changed over the course of when you started to the end, the last 12 years. You're being accused of setting Wilder up, and with what you're complaining about and saying, and the fact that you're putting all this stuff out and this venom and vitriol, and you sound disgruntled, for lack of a better word, that actually gives people an avenue or a reason to feel, okay, this is why he would consider work. So I'm just saying, suggesting all of this stuff is true. Now it makes sense why you would double cross him. If you felt that you weren't being valued and JD was, the go-to trainer getting the credit, and you feel that you didn't have his phone number and Wilder wasn't taking care of you, or he was moody, that actually makes more sense to what Wilder's saying, that you snaked him. You see what I'm saying? That actually makes sense. But if you stay quiet and, didn't really vent all these Wilder's untrainable and stuff like that, then you could just leave Wilder out in no man's land to potentially look bad and people to speculate. And then people might say like, oh, Wilder's tripping. But I feel like Mark Breland's actions don't further push me from the fact that Wilder could be onto something. Mark Breland is nonstop complaining. Oh, he wouldn't jab. He's coming to the gym late. He wouldn't give me his phone number. He became unapproachable, untrainable. I never talked to him alone. Okay, now these are all things that with the current accusations lead me to believe you would be more easy to infiltrate, because that's how corruption starts. You hate your job, and you hate your job at the bank, and some people who proposition you and say, hey, give us the heads up, we're gonna rob your bank, and we'll give you some money. You already hate your job. You hate your boss. So at the end of the day, yeah, you don't care. Like you trying to get paid. You know what I mean? So yeah, you would be more inclined to set somebody up if you were disgruntled. Do you see what I'm saying? So for me, Breland doing all this, it doesn't make him look better. It doesn't push me farther from the belief that Wilder could be onto something. I could see you snaking somebody if you're unhappy, if you don't have his number, if you feel like you weren't allowed to train. So no matter how you slice it, this just really ain't a popping look for Mr. Breland. So between inconsistencies with his story, saying I never had the water bottle, and then there's actual screen caps of you with the water bottle, and you sounding disgruntled overall, saying Wilder's untrainable and, became a menace to and hard to coach and things like that. Now it pushes people to, at least, no matter if you know what happened or whatever, it doesn't sound like what Wilder's saying is far-fetched, and you open that up because you're allowing for it to grow and become messy. When Wilder says something, you respond back. Sometimes you have to be the bigger person, and then people wouldn't know what it was. But, it's like the game open chest. He's just leaving his chest open with his moves. And if Mark Breland, like, you're fired. You don't work with him. It is what it is. It doesn't change anything. And this just ensures that probably won't be rekindled anytime soon. So I don't really understand, unless someone has a battery in his back, I don't really understand what Breland is expecting to gain with this back and forth. Like, what fighter in the U.S., I don't know about the UK and MTK and stuff like that, but what U.S. fighter is going to want Mark Breland training him just when it looks this messy? So it's funny that Mark Breland says his career is over, and so is Wilder. I don't know about Wilder's career. We'll have to see how he looks in his next fight, but I definitely think Mark Breland's career as a trainer is over. Like, I mean, what trainer would allow this? And somebody in my live stream brought up a very good point. Basically, Andy Ruiz and Manny Robles didn't necessarily end great for them. Ruiz wasn't listening and all this stuff like that. And Manny Robles could have just nonstop, waited and started working with Anthony Joshua or something to spite Ruiz, but he didn't do that. He kind of took the higher road, said a couple things maybe, and then that was it. But he could have really went in on Andy Ruiz, who seemed like he was uncooperative and stuff like that, but he seemingly got over the situation. Manny Robles didn't team up and start giving intel to Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn and make this even messier than it needed to be. But Breland, for some reason, is accepting and allowing that. So many questions. Drop yours, comments in the comment section. But to me, this stuff doesn't look good for Breland. Like, people keep saying, Wilder, you just lost, get over it, move on. But they're not saying that to Breland. They're not saying, hey, bruh, you just got fired. It's over. just move on. But they're saying it to Wilder, so it lets you know the hatred for Wilder is real. And you know, people, they act like they feel a type of way, but the double standards are crazy. Same people again saying Wilder, move on, it's over, deal with the loss. Okay, Mark Breland, move on, deal with the loss, let Wilder say whatever he's saying. Why you have to engage with it, especially when it makes you look bad? Why did you stay? So many questions. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Gang, gang, we work.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.